Welcome to the Museum Roadshow. I'm Roger Engstrom. It's June 2010. We're out here at the Brad and Lisa Hoffert farm, which is north of Detroit Lakes on Highway 59. This is probably one of the oldest farms in Becker County. It was started in the 1870s by Anders Tong. And he built a barn on this place in probably the 1880s. There have been cows milked on this farm ever since. And this house that we're sitting in today was built by Mr. Tong. It was the first flatwood house built in Becker County, which means it was built with lumber that had been sawed in this farm. They used oak logs to saw it into lumber. Otherwise, prior to that, they were living in a log house, and when they first came here, they lived in a sod house. And this farm is still an active dairy farm. And the silo that's on the farm was built, one of the first silos in Becker County was on this farm also. And that silo has since been torn down, and Brad Hoffert has replaced it with another silo.
My dad, Bud Tong, Irwin Tong, or some guys called him Irv Tong. He was a proud old Swede, and he took over the farm from Amelia Tong, who was married to my grandfather, which was Adolf Tong. About 1951 or 52 is when my dad went to grade A. And grade A dairy was when you had to whitewash the barn, you had to upgrade. I guess that's what they called it. So they had to move the chicken house away from the barn. And so it had to be 1,000 feet. And my dad and my Uncle Charlie, they went and got the old schoolhouse up about halfway between here and Uppsala Church, which is 3 miles away, and that's where my dad and I used to hear the story about I had to walk through the snowbanks to get to school, and it was 7 miles round trip, and it was uphill both ways, and all the other good stuff that goes on with listening about the old days. But so they moved the old schoolhouse down here, and my mom had a big brood of chickens, and I remember as a kid pulling pin feathers because she used to sell them to Rog Roy, and that's how people in town got their fresh chickens. The school had a school bell, like Uppsala still has their big bell. And I was just informed that that bell has got a date on it. That's we used to ring that bell when it came time for supper. Lisa here says that she found a date of 1886 on the schoolhouse bell that came with the chicken coop when it got moved on to the farm. But we moved off the farm, like I said, in 1957, and Albert Moser bought it, and he didn't stay here too long, and then these Germans came down from North Dakota, up by Rugby, I guess it was, something like that.
My name is Brad Hoffert. My parents were Bud and Hetty Hoffert, and we moved here in 1963, and I have to agree with John, there's must be something in the water here, because they had all girls and one boy, and my parents also had 5 girls and one boy. Susan, Sarah, Margaret, Molly, Lisa, and myself. I was right in the middle. So when it came turn for me to take over the farm in 1990, when I got married, I also had 2 girls. And I quit there while I was ahead. When we came out here in 1963, the selling point to this farm for my father, I remember, was the fact that it had a barn cleaner in the barn. And the name he chose for the farm was Dakota Stock and Dairy, because my parents had come from North Dakota. The buildings that were on the farm in 1963 were real similar to what John remembers, but as equipment changed and times changed, my parents moved some buildings, what John called the chicken coop. My dad moved down by the railroad tracks, and we stored straw in it, and it was also partially used as a granary until it no longer, until we didn't keep it up anymore, and steel bins took its place. The well was moved up by the house. We had a big well house in the middle of the yard. When they added onto the barn, of course, it took more water because we had more cattle, and so we needed a bigger well. The old schoolhouse served its purpose, and my father built an outside pole building then. And as he added about 20 feet onto the barn, and my wife and I in the 90s added another 20 feet onto the barn, and bigger silos. And growing up here, I saw how well it worked for my parents to raise a family here, and I thought that was something that I wanted to do with my life. Both Lisa and I don't hold off the farm jobs. We kind of pride ourselves that we make a living here at the farm yet, and have done so at this place for over, as you can tell, over 100 years. It's been, dairy cows have been here, so that's kind of cool.